Welcome to Renovating Real Estate. I'm Sandy McMaster, your host. Each week here we renovate the way real estate operators think, decide, and execute because most people never operationalize what truly makes them different. And we, using the identity ops method, are on a mission to change that. This week, we're talking about the quarter you can't screenshot because some quarters they look like nothing's happening. And that is where some people start to spiral or do that quiet quitting thing right before the turn. So, we're going to talk about how to review invisible progress without lying to yourself. Quick break, and we'll get right into it. Let me set the moment. Q1 2026 had a little bit of everything, something for everybody. Let's see, interest rate volatility, an epic snowstorm, continued industry consolidation, and oh yeah, let's just throw in a war for good measure. Whoa, right? These are not excuses, but it is reality. But here's the trap. The world and our industry, they reward receipts, tangibles, but real life, it really runs on trajectory. Say that 5 times fast. The world is continually asking, what did you bring to the table? What have you done for me lately? And the truth is, sometimes you can't bring anything to the table because you're busy being the table. And real estate is no different. Our industry tracks what's closed, but the kind of work that changes your life, the kind of work that changes your business, that oftentimes looks unfinished at first. So instead of a payoff, let's rename it. It's repositioning. Because if you can't name invisible progress, you will treat it like failure. So here's the question. How do you review a quarter like the first quarter of 2026 in residential real estate without turning it into a self-sabotaging spiral? Reflection. Now, it's true. What gets measured gets managed, but what gets reflected, that gets transformed. A review shouldn't only be a performance evaluation. It should be a reality check and a directional reset, a confirmation. And reviewing, reflecting, it also gives you access to the one move most operators avoid: subtraction. Because some quarters are for harvesting and others, those are for planting. And if you planted for lower rates, a traditional spring market momentum continually moving forward, yeah, same. Some people mistake a pivot for failure. If you didn't pivot in Q1, okay, maybe you didn't have to, but I would like to believe that most of us did. So don't mistake a pivot for failure. Hold standards, keeping boundaries, repositioning that pivot. Ooh, that's the sign of an operator who knows what problem they solve and for who. And here's the real signal of positioning. it typically feels slower. Wins are oftentimes invisible standards that don't come with a plaque and a certificate. The invisible wins are standards. My Q1 weren't outputs, they were standards. Things like I stayed focused to the promises I made. I held the boundaries that I promised to myself. I stayed consistent. And some of that looked a lot more like planting than harvesting. And maybe the most important standard I held, that was to my calendar. Because your calendar doesn't hold meetings. It holds your identity. And subtraction is really the strategy here. Here's what my Q1 review showed me. It came up blaring, flashing lights for me. I can't keep adding. I can't. If I want true alignment, subtraction isn't optional for me. Subtraction is actually the strategy. So let me give you 2 questions that could potentially help you calibrate today. What are you still adding? What are you still adding that you might end up resenting in the future? Second question, what are you tolerating? What are you tolerating that costs you energy every single week? You've had the first quarter to roll through this and live your calendar. You should have some pretty big clues. Maybe it's an old room. Maybe it's just rearranging your office. Maybe it's an old culture. Maybe it's old expectations. Subtraction isn't just a journal entry. It really requires more of a method, actually, to make it worth doing at all. And if you want to review without spiraling, use this little method. Take a scoreboard, a soul board, and a North Star. A scoreboard is a lot the typical things, what the world tracks. Now, we cannot ignore the scoreboard. We can't. Things won't go well if we do, but that's things like what actually got done, what got shipped, what got closed, what moved, what project actually made forward progress, what is stalled. No drama to this, no judgment to this, just the facts. Okay, so number 1, take a look at your scoreboard. You got to look at that. You can't ignore it. Just like you can't ignore the scale, you got to get on that sucker. You can't ignore the scoreboard. Second up is your soul board. Now, this is not woo-woo, okay? This is what you live with every day. This is what your everyday feels like. And as the saying goes, my friends, the days are long, but the years are short. You should pay attention to this. So inside of your soul board, what are those things that might be on a soul board? What gave you energy over the first quarter? What made you feel alive, pumped up, excited to get after it? On the other hand, what drained you? What are you pretending not to know? What do you recognize, but it's in your peripheral vision and you just don't want to stare right at it? Take a look at that. All right. So that's your soul board. Number 3. Now, this is important. And I've heard a lot of different opinions on this. I've been through exercises where people, take you through 1 year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year vision strategies. And, they're all good. Fine. All good. I like to think of it more like a North Star. And for me, and inside of the identity ops method, I I just can't really get past the 3-year mark. Like, it just seems a little more realistic, a little more tangible. I can get just my arms around what's practically going on, probably with a 3-year term. So the North Star can help you look forward at next quarter's commitments. What are 3 commitments for Q2 that move you closer to the North Star? That's progress. And what next quarter might get subtracted? What's one subtraction you might need to make? That's how you review without spiraling. Facts, feelings, and then forward. You got to go. But there is a price to pay here. When you review this way, there is a price to pay. And I don't think it's highlighted because it's not all that fun. The cost to doing things this way is that it's going to force you to slow down. And our industry loves speed. They love the easy button. Click here, use AI for this. It's just not a reality for real quality progress. As military operators say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So ask yourself, where am I calling quality a delay? Sometimes it takes what it takes. And if you aren't aligned with what gets your time, effort, energy, and money, if you aren't aligned, beware. Mismatched priorities will cost you your very best energy. And that's where projects don't get finished. That's where what really needs your time and should get your time across the scoreboard, it won't get your time if your priorities and your calendar aren't right. So if you've got old energy that no longer matches, you have to be honest and adjust. Where am I spending energy pretending it still fits, or I still fit it? Either way, got to stare right at it. And this really does lead to the line that's forever true. And there are few truths and few constants, but there is no going back. The first quarter's history, right? We now see the shape of what current realities are. And as business owners, you are obligated to respond, not recoil, not fall apart in your broker's office. God bless you, brokers. You got to be a realist and you got to move. So where does this leave you? If your first quarter didn't have the hot receipts you thought it might, part of this job and part of being a leader, the leader of yourself, is to review, recognize, and respond. And look, chances are your first quarter held really powerful shifts. I know mine did. Powerful things. Really review and mark them down, because at the end of the year, you want to look back and say, I did it. You don't get there unless you review it and recognizing it. So maybe here's just my humble suggestion. Instead of asking, did I win? Ask, did I move closer towards my target, my North Star? And like in the iconic words of, what was it? Hangover Part 2. Yeah, but did you die? Now, you may have gotten shot in the first quarter, but did you die? No, you didn't. So it's time to pony up. Even if your quarter didn't pay off, I am sure it positioned you. To find your next move is just inside your review. And maybe some subtraction. That's a reality. So if this hit at maybe just the right time, share it with another operator who needs some perspective and some balance as we move into Q2. Look, at a minimum, this year is going to be super interesting, and it's going to go down in the history books for sure. So take a look at your review, use the methodology we did here. If you want the operating system, that is what Identity Ops is for. You can just go to identityops.co or sandymcmaster.com. And one last very humble ask, if you find these useful, one comment, one like, a forward, it really does help so much. We're a very small seed trying to sprout here. So any engagement really does move the needle for us. Thanks for listening, watching if you're on Substack. If you're not on Substack, you can subscribe there. I will see you next week.